333, 332, 331. Woo. Thank you all for those who have stuck around, and welcome to Shenaniderp. And it's raining. Holy crap, what interesting timing. So yesterday, while our server was down for the count, I was playing with the map download that I managed to get from Adult. Apparently our web server finally stopped being DDoS'd, but something broke in the jar, I guess, the .jar file. I don't know, I have no idea what happened. I just know it's fixed now, but it was down like all day yesterday, and most of today actually. So while I was doing that, I was playing with the map download and trying to figure out what exactly was causing my horrible frames per second issue. And let's just say me solving it involved several nukes. Believe me, it solved the problem pretty quick, actually. Well, okay, it took about 5 minutes for all the blocks to despawn, but whatever. Anyways, I did manage to track it down, and the problem is these barrels. All of these barrels. And the trick with that is all of these pictures that are here, I guess it's taking up a lot of visual power to display just the pictures. You know what? I don't know. I just know that the problem starts going away as I back away. And as we can see in the barrels, the pictures start disappearing as I back up, and they start reappearing as I get closer. And as I back away, that's when my frames per second go up. Anyways, I did test this. I popped every single one of these barrels in the wall, and just the barrels, nothing else. Didn't change micro blocks, didn't change the red power tubes behind the wall, didn't move any of the chests or anything else. I just popped the barrels, and my frames per second went up from about 24 to approximately 50, 60, somewhere around there. So we did pretty good. But, of course, that was the testing world, and I don't want to do that here. Because if I pop these barrels, I mean, where am I going to put all this stuff? I don't have that many chests lying around. Even with the fact that if you pop, say, this barrel that has 109 stacks of an item in it, I will only get 64 max. Which we can tell with that gold barrel up there. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, but I had several hundred bars of gold in there. Well, I was trying to get a stack of gold out there, but I had my power tool equipped, and I punched it, and it popped the barrel. Yeah. So, yeah, watch popping your barrels. You don't get all your stuff back. It kind of sucks, actually. But I got 64 bars of gold, and if I set everything up right, I'll still have 64 bars of gold, so it won't be too much of a problem. Now, the problem is, what am I going to do with all these barrels? I mean, I have, I don't know, hundreds of barrels up here that I gotta somehow get rid of and move all the crap into something more useful. I mean, seriously, that's one of those things, like, how the crap do I do that? Well, I did some research on that one, and there is a great little mod that's included in the Ultimate Pack called Applied Energetics. And it's got this really awesome looking storage system. I mean, it's nowhere near as awesome as this Wallow storage here, but as a computer geek, it looks pretty freaking awesome to me. So, what I'm going to do is today just walk through setting up the storage part of it itself. It can do more, lots more, but I'm just going to focus on storage because we're taking all of this stuff out of these barrels and putting them into something else is going to take up a lot of server power because of the way I'm going to do it. I'm not going to screw around with transposers or picking everything up manually and putting it in. No, I'm going to use a retriever with a timer. And I know how our server admin gets kind of upset when people use timers. And I'm going to be breaking the rules a little bit and going to be using a timer that's running at less than a second. So, enough with rambling on. My throat surprisingly hurts already. Let's get started building this thing. And I've decided that I'm going to build it here, underneath the steps, right in front of the big tank of creosote oil. Why? I don't know. There weren't very many better spots, but this is where I'm going to build it, and that's what I've decided. Now, the machine that I'm going to be doing, these things, specifically this guy, the ME controller. This is the big important kahuna right here. The ME controller is central to this entire structure. You have to have it. You have to. So, the ME controller has the ability to run off of either EU, created by Industrial Craft or Greg Tech at certain points, or it can run off of the Minecraft Joules, the MJs. Now, I started doing math, and okay, so I have a bunch of electric engines running downstairs. Y'all saw that before. It runs my quarry in the other world, which I don't have turned on right now for obvious reasons. But so we have the whole bunch of electric engines running down there, and those electric engines take 6 EU per tick and turn it into 2 megajoules per tick, Minecraft joules per tick. Now, the computer itself runs off of 6 energy units per tick, or 3 EU per tick, or 1.2 Minecraft joules per tick. So if my math is correct, taking 6 EU per tick and turning them into 2 MJ per tick is actually more efficient than running this thing off of EUs per tick directly. Alright, you know what? I'm going to redo the math on that one just to make absolutely sure I'm right about this, because I'm kind of confused. So, jump cut and I'll be right back. You know what? Redoing the math on that, I think I'm wrong. I think it's actually more efficient if we connect directly into the power supply, which kinda sucks because now I have to worry about the power supply coming from IC2, because the EUs come in 4 different flavors. There's low voltage, medium voltage, high voltage, and extreme voltage. Now, most of my system runs off of high voltage. Like that, those 4 MFSUs there specifically. So, and if I remember reading on the wiki correctly, reading on the wiki says that this system will only run off of medium voltage, up to 128 EU per tick. Which is probably something I have to be concerned with, considering the more devices I have plugged into the central processing unit, the ME controller, the more power is required. Let's see, where do I keep my... No, those are MFEs. I don't want to play with MFEs. I want to play with transformers, which I just need this for. Yeah. I've been steering so clear of IC2 that I've actually started to forget parts of IC2, like what part makes what thing in IC2. Alright, so that right there is high voltage. Ooh, that means I need glass fiber cabling. Yeah, so high voltage through an MV transformer means I'm getting medium voltage power. That's not there. This is there. Okay, yes. Woo. I thought I had this all sorted out in my head before I started recording this time, but I didn't. I totally didn't. Let's see what blows up, because things with Greg Tech tend to like to explode spectacularly. Okay, nothing blew up. Good. Now, here's the million-dollar question. Will this thing explode? I was told that it supports up to 128 EU per tick, which is exactly what's going to be heading through this system out of this medium voltage transformer. So, if this doesn't blow up, then we're all good. It didn't blow up, and we got a charge. Yeah, there's some interesting things with this setup. Some interesting little graphical things, like this thing has an internal battery that stores 8,000 energy units, and that is indicated by this graph, this bar here. Okay, so now we have this ME controller. We see we're using 6 units per tick. Another freaking power unit. Oy. But it doesn't really have anything. I mean, we have this input and this output, but I can tell you right now, nothing in my inventory will actually go into this system. We have to have other things attached to it, specifically something like this ME access terminal. Alright, so we saw it just lit up blue. Now if we right-click on this ME terminal, we see a user interface. Now, what does this look like to you? Well, this actually looks like 2 things to me. This either looks like Creative 2, which honestly I'm not 100% sure what Creative 2 is, so I can't make a full-on comparison. Or, if you're in creative mode and you click on that tab with the compass as a marker, and you can type in what you're looking for, and it sorts for you, that's what it looks like. It looks like the search feature in creative mode. And that's exactly what it is, basically. However, we can't do anything with this yet. I mean, I can't even put glass fiber cabling in here, or anything for that matter. I won't be able to put anything in the ME terminal. And that's because this thing here, the terminal, is only a user interface. Okay, so this can get a little confusing, believe me. The ME controller is just the central processor, basically. This is the central control unit. And as we can see, it even knows what we're attached to. So, yeah. So, if we have the central processing unit, we have the user interface. Basically, this is kind of like a monitor. Kind of. Okay, it's a little bit more complex like that, but this is kind of like the monitor. Then to store things, we need like a hard drive. And that's what this is, the ME drive. We can plug that down right there. Now, the ME drive is actually kind of a misleading name. Yeah, it can see that we have the drive attached. And we see we're also going up to, we're using 9 units per tick now. That's because each of these devices use more power per tick than just 1 unit alone. The more things that you attach to this little central control unit, the more power you're going to use. So once I get really in depth into it and start having some real fun with it, I'm going to have to start worrying about power consumption. However, let's get back to the topic at hand. Now, this ME drive is misleading. The title suggests that it's a drive, a hard drive kind of ish. But that's not accurate. Think a drive bay. Like, what I keep thinking of this as is a server kind of setup. Okay, so you have the central processing unit, you have a interface, and then you have a NAS, network attached storage. Basically, it's a big, giant bay that you plug hard drives into. Now, that's the important part. You plug hard drives into. So you have to plug drives into this thing. And that's where these things come in. The 64K storage that I'm using, but we can see that there's 1K storage, 16K storage, and 64K storage. And 4K storage. Okay, there we go. Now, this is also based off of computer terms. As we can see, it says ME 1K storage, 0 of 1024 bytes used. Now, this is that is computer terms. So 1024 is actually 1K. Yeah, slightly confusing. It's because of octets and crap like that, and stuff that I just don't feel like going into at the moment. Anyway, so we have to install the hard drives, and that's what these are, the storage units here. So if we put these in, and this is actually pretty awesome. So I put this one in the upper left-hand corner. We see that right there. It actually shows it on the front. I love the little tweaks that this system makes in the user interface. So I have these 4 in, and we can see that they're top 4. Oops. But, see? It's actually smart enough to tell me where the hard drives are. It actually gets even cooler, which we will definitely see today, because I don't have enough storage for my entire wall of stuff. And that's no joke. I don't have near enough storage to hold all my stuff. Which is actually kind of funny, because when I was testing it before, one of these bays here is enough to hold the entire wall of storage and more. And it's pretty cool. Now, there is one other thing I want to add to these things. You see how it has the 0 of 65536 bytes used, 0 of 63 types. Okay. So the bytes used is the number of items stored in this particular storage unit. The types are the types of items stored. So we can literally only hold 63 types of items. So even if we don't have all the bytes used, but we have 63 types, if we try to add a 64th type, it will move on to the next storage unit. Whew. Okay, yeah, that's confusing. And it gets even more confusinger. But now that we have the ME terminal attached to the controller, which we can see that the energy used even went up when I just added the hard drives. Holy crap. And the controller recognizes that both items are attached. Now we can start adding items. See how I just clicked, and now we have glass fiber cabling in there. And I can click and I can pull it out. There's a little bit of a delay that wasn't there in single player, but I would guess that's because I was in single player. So let's have some fun with this thing. So we got 1024 stacks of gold nuggets. Pop, 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 plop. Yay! Alright, so bunch of stacks of gold nuggets. We go into our little user interface here. We take one stack of gold nuggets and we click it into our terminal. So now we have 64. So now if I take this other stack of gold nuggets and put it in like a chest, it would be forced to create another stack. Like it would take up another slot. This does not, however. This will stack here. And we can just keep doing this over and over again. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, boop. And now we have 1216 freaking gold nuggets in here. Oh, and I keep doing that. But yeah, up here, you can type in the item that you're searching for. Gold. Or if I type in iron, nothing comes up because I have nothing that says iron in here. So, well, not yet anyways. That's a process is coming up here shortly. The next thing that we have to, the next thing that's really actually kind of awesome, that, yeah, I'm going to have to show off later on in the setup, but I think it's pretty sweet once I actually get there. Anyways, what I've got to do is set up a system that takes all of these things and puts them in there. And I haven't pre-built that one yet. So we'll fiddle with that here in a second. But let's take a look at what I need. What I need, I don't remember. But if you're looking for the storage stuff, most of the stuff can be seen by typing ME space, and you'll get your stuff up here. Specifically, it's this thing right here, the ME interface that I need to make. Oh, God. I need to make another one of these conversion matrix. These basic processors are freaking invaluable in this system. The processors in general are invaluable. I've had to make like 3 stacks of them just to make those 3 blocks over there. It's kind of ridiculous. So let's see, what else do I need? And I don't know what all of these are yet. I really don't. Like, I know there's a way that you can attach parts to it to craft items for you. And that's pretty freaking awesome. But I haven't figured out how to use it yet. I'm just focusing on storage and getting everything into said storage. So I need an ME cable, which I have in my... well, let's focus here. So 2 quartz crystals, redstone, and 4 iron. So... woo! You know what? How about I just start building this stuff because of the fun lag that I'm getting. And I shall cut to when I'm finished building this and the red power retriever that I'm going to need. Okay, so now we have the retriever. We also have this ME interface thingamabob. But the problem comes when all of my stuff is over here, yet the computer is way over there. Now, I could... pull pipe, or no, tube, the whole way over here, and then dig through the floor and attach things upstairs and put a retriever in place, and, there's an easier way. Well, I don't know if it qualifies as easier, but there's a more fun way, and a more useful way, and a more educational way. This will actually be useful for you guys if anybody wants to play with these things. And that comes from these ME cables. Now, these ME cables are actually pretty freaking cool, too. Because you can have different colors of cables. Blue, black, white, brown, red, yellow, green, blah, 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 blah. And they won't connect to each other. So you could have 2 of these systems sitting side by side and not interfere with each other. Because if you have one of the central processing units, the ME controllers, if you have 2 of them on the same network, it kind of breaks things, and yeah, it does not like it. So don't do that. But with these cables, think network cables for a computer. That kind of thing. They're kind of like that. They are. They will connect devices together onto what is called a network. So I can actually take these cables, bring them the whole way over here, which this is not going probably is not going to be a temporary thing. I don't know. I haven't really figured out how I'm going to set up everything so that it will go through the sorting system and then the making system and all that fun crap, and then go into the storage. Right now, I'm just worried about making things go from in there to in there and be done with it. Alright, so now we have this little energy block connected to our network cable here. And all we need to do, actually we need to do a couple of things. We need to bring power from here over to there because a retriever takes blue electric power. Now, I've tested this, and this is not going to kill my power, which is pretty cool. I've actually made a pretty solid system when it comes to red power. Yeah, interesting problems with names there. Red power. Whee! but I've got to cover these these tubes here because I've got to take wire, these guys, the blue alloy wire, up and over the tubes because, whoops, when I put these tubes in, I wasn't thinking about what else I may or may not need to do and kind of wired myself into a corner. Yeah. Boop, 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 boop. Alright, and then we'll put the retriever here, which of course now the retriever's pointing the wrong way because the big hole goes the other way. Boop, boop. Come on, point the right way. Not that way. Not that way. That way. Okay. Then we take our pneumatic tubes. And it's literally that simple. Well, no. It's nowhere near that simple. Yeah, I'm lying to you. It's nowhere near that simple. Because right now what we can do, we can have our retriever do its thing. And we saw it flash once. Oh, we're not seeing it flash because... yeah, it's not doing its thing. But we can see items going into this thing right here. And I really don't know what this interface is as of yet. Again, I'm mostly focusing on getting everything into storage, which I'm going to have to go upstairs. When I was practicing, I had the entire thing set up over there. It was ugly looking, but it was working for useful purposes. Now, we can see one of the cool things that this thing does. Okay. There. You see it? It flashes green. It's got like a yellowish color and then it flashes green. It flashes when there's hard drive access. Really cool. I love it. Alright. And then we can watch here as everything starts building up. And we don't have to worry about sorting everything or making sure everything goes in the proper place. This automatically sorts us for us. Okay? We can sort by different things. So I can sort by number of items, priority or cell order, whatever that means, or by item name. I really wish I could sort by block ID, so it would look like NEI, because I know where things are in NEI. I have no idea where things are in here, but it's less of a problem because I could type in here. I could just type in this search, and it's no problem. Of course, in all technicality, it's no problem down here in NEI either, so yeah. But we can change which direction we order. So right now, the gold nuggets are first because we have 1,216 of them. But if we hit the other button, we got the stuff that we only have one of first. The view is the actual views of items. These are stored items and craftable items. These are stored items. These are craftable items. Now, I'm gonna guess that craftable items are actually the plans that the computer uses to auto-craft things, which, again, I haven't gone into because I'm only worried about storage. I know I've said that, 5 times already? I keep wanting to say that because I know people are going to show up in the comments, oh, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Because I'm not there yet. But, okay, so I don't know if anybody noticed the particular problem with the retriever that may be coming up. We're pulling things out of elsewhere. Yeah. Yeah, the retriever is just a temporary thing. A very, very temporary thing. I'm not going to be continuing to use the retriever. This is only to pull things out of the barrels. But you may have noticed we're not pulling things out of the barrels. We have the retriever going. We've pulled items out, but nothing's coming from the barrels. In fact, it's already stopped pulling things. Now, why is that? That's because it pulled everything from this chest. The overflow chest that I had all that crap in? Yeah, that's where it came from. Ooh, that's a valid point. I won't have the overflow chest anymore. I won't be able to update the machine to take advantage of things that I have, that I haven't taken into account already. Like, there was a bunch of dusts in there that I hadn't thrown into a filter to throw through the cooker, the furnace, and I don't remember which ones they were. Crap. Huh. Anyways, but as we can see, it's not pulling items. So, yeah, so how do we get it to do that? Well, that is taking that to do that, we have to take into account how the barrels work. All right, now these barrels are slightly interesting. Their input is on top, but their output is on the bottom. Now, if you can see that, the outline of the block there is only covering the top, 10th of the block? And that's because if we pop this block, we can see that I have another micro block underneath the barrel. And that stops the pipe from interacting with the bottom of the barrel. Because if you're trying to input things in the output slot, it kind of screws with things. As I found out playing with the pipes in the barrels. Yeah. However, since we're worried about pulling everything out and we're not going to be putting anything in until we're done pulling everything out, if we pop that, we can see things are now pulling out of the barrel. In fact, the entire way out of the barrel. And that's what I have to do. That's the next thing I have to do, is pop all of the blocks that are underneath the barrels. Woo. And it's actually kind of easy to do, because as you can see, I'm popping blocks, but it's not showing anything. That's because if you aim for that top corner there, the top part of the micro block, it'll actually pop the micro block underneath the barrel. So I don't have to pop 2. I just have to pop 1. Saves a little bit of time. Not a lot, though. But considering what I have to do, a little bit of time is going to be kind of needed. So I'm going to pop all of these, and I shall be right back. And that is done for the most part, but keen-eyed observers will notice a small problem with that idea, or at least those who were thinking really, really, really hard about it. The problem comes with these bottom barrels down here. I can't pop the micro block that's below these barrels because there is no micro block below the barrels. I didn't build this system with retrieval in mind. I just built it with storage in mind. So these barrels don't actually have pipes under them. Well, there's actually an easy way to deal with that, and that involves, once all of these barrels are empty, popping the barrels and then using the gravity gun to pull the barrels out from here and put them in there. It's seriously the easiest way to deal with them. But while we're doing this, I want to show you something interesting that I saw that is not on this floor. It's on the floor above. I'm always doing that. With the hard drives. Alright, you see how that one hard drive is orange? And now we have the second one that's blinking green? There's a reason for that. If we click on the hard drive and we hover over our little storage units, we can see that while we only have 32,000 out of 65,000 bytes used, we have 63 of 63 types. Okay, so there's 63 types of items stored on that drive, so it can't hold any more types of items. All it's going to do is sit there with those specific types of items and wait until it gets more of them, so it takes up more bytes of storage. And we can see that this one's happily working away on its 12th of 63 types. And that probably means that I'm going to have to fill up these other 6 here. So when I did it as a test before, I emptied these all out, and I had 6 of them full, completely full, as in it even said the bytes used were completely full. Just, it was full. 6 of them were completely full. A 7th one was orange, like that, and the 8th one was being used. Now, that just goes to show how powerful this system is, because that entire wall, and I'm including the bottom level barrels that I manually put in place, all of that fit into the space of 3 blocks. Technically, it fit into the space of 1 block, but to make it useful, you kind of have to have all 3. Now, there's also advantages to that kind of setup. As we saw, I was using the network cables to get this thing, the interface, attached to the system. Well, I can also put the crap. Now I forget what it's called. The access terminal. I could also make another access terminal, plunk it down there, and access the same inventory from the drives. I can also plunk down as many drives as I want, as long as it's attached to the system, and it will work. And it also works like red power devices, where I only need to get power to one thing to spread the power. Specifically, you got to get the power to this thing. As we see, we're using 24 units of power. Yeah, we need to get the power to this unit, and then anything that's attached to this unit will be able to be accessed by said unit. And it daisy chains. So, like I have the cables, if you notice, the cables were beside the electrical connection. So that means the cables went into this device here, the drive itself. It didn't go into the central processing unit. So they daisy chain, just like how I don't have to have individual cables behind each one of those batteries to make sure that everything has access to the power. Specifically, this particular battery box right here, the only thing it's touching is stone here, there's air in front of it, there's air behind it, there's a box to this side, and then there's a box underneath it, like a battery box. Yet, we can still use power from it. It doesn't have to be connected by wire, and nor does this thing, as long as it's connected in some way. Now my throat hurts a lot. So, I'm going to let this system do its thing for a little while. And as we can see, it's going pretty quick. That retriever grabs stacks at a time. What is it working on now? It's working on the iron now, which might take a little while. I only have the timer set to 1 second because I'm afraid of what happens if I crank it up. I don't think it would hurt anything. But from what I can tell, the fastest these things will work is actually 0.4 seconds. So like if I hit -1, I can go down to 0.2 seconds. But that's not going to make the retriever work any faster than if... No, wrong button. This button. If I had it set here at 0.4 seconds. 0.4 seconds seems to be as fast as the retriever can possibly go. Whew. Alright, so I'm going to let this go for a little while. I'll probably get chewed out by the server admin because, yeah, my frames per second have dropped just from playing with this. They haven't dropped much, so it's probably not noticeable from the rest of the video. Oh, my throat is killing me. So what I'm going to do while I'm not displaying it is build more of those storage cells. The 64K storage. I can build the smaller ones. The smaller ones are easier to build. Like if we just make the 1K storage, we just need this storage cell. But if I want to make the 64K storage, I need a storage cluster, which is made out of storage blocks, which is made out of storage segments, which is made out of storage cells. 3 each. So exponential growth there. And it's kind of annoying. And each level needs one of these basic processors until you get up into the storage clusters, which needs an advanced processor, which takes diamonds. I'm not joking. The advanced processor needs diamonds to make, whereas the basic processors just need gold to make. Still expensive as crap, though. Oh, makes my brains hurt like mad. My brains, plural. I've got many of them up here. Alright, so yes, like I said, I am going to let this thing do its thing while I'm building more things to do my thing. There was something else I was going to attach to the network, but yeah, I'm not worried about it today. I won't worry about it this episode. But yeah, so I will come back when this thing is completed, and I will show off the user interface. Well, I'll come back when this is closer to completed, because this is going to take hours. Yeah, and then I'll show more of how that thing works. And yeah, so I will see you guys in a moment. So it's been about an hour, and we've gotten some stuff taken out of the system, but we're not even halfway yet. We've still got a considerable amount, but these two sections on the wall are empty, except for the bottom parts here, which I'll just worry about later. But I figure at this point I can show off at least what it looks like. And in case you're curious of why these three are empty and these two are empty, and you might notice that the ender pearls are dropping, that's because it's based off of distance. Okay, like this barrel, the bottom of this barrel is closer than the bottom of this barrel, but the bottom of this barrel is also closer than the bottom of this barrel since the pipe is here. Same with the bottom of this barrel being closer than the bottom of this barrel over here. So it's just distance in 2 dimensions. Can be a little confusing, but it's there. Anyways, I wanted to show off what this thing looks like as it's working before I end this episode, which is probably going to happen here very, very soon. Because at this point, there's kind of not much else I can do until it's done. Because my frames per second issue has actually gotten worse. Which is exactly what I expected. I expected it to get worse while I was doing this. And it should get better once it's done and I have all the barrels popped. But I wanted to show off what it was doing, because we have a pretty decent example. Well, we had a pretty decent example, now we don't, of what's going on. Okay, so we can see how this one drive is red, but none of the others are. Let's see, do I see which one's blinking? I can't see which one's blinking. You guys might be able to see which one's blinking, but I totally cannot. That's my Keller blindness kicking in again. I can't see which one's blinking. But this one up here was red. And as we see, it says 65,536 of 65,536. Its storage capacity is completely full. This one was full, which is mildly confusing. It was completely full. Not the bytes used, just the types were full. I'd like to be able to tell like what's on each particular drive, but that's not easy. I'd have to pull out all of the other hard drives, and I don't know how the system would react when I do that, so I don't want to right now, not when I'm risking losing all my data. Yeah, I'll play with it later. But, okay, so this is how I think of this. I think of it as kind of like a file server. A very old school file server. Now, the bytes of storage, that's how many ones and zeros can be stored on the hard drive. Now, I don't know if I'm being 100% accurate with my description here, because I don't think there's ever been such a thing as a 64K hard drive. Now, I know that there was storage that was 64K in size, but an actual hard drive, I don't think was ever that small. The smallest hard drive that I know of that existed was a 5 meg hard drive. And the only reason I know that they existed is because I drove to the other side of Pennsylvania to get one for my dad, because he's kind of a collector, that kind of stuff. And it was about 3 foot long. So it was about the size as this entire enclosure right here. It was freaking huge. But as for a 64K hard drive, I don't think they ever actually existed. I think you had to have other types of storage, like tape media, to get 64K of storage. I don't know. I'd have to talk to the expert. My dad. But, yeah. Anyways, but I'm thinking of this as like a very old school kind of file server. The types of items would be files. So this one storage unit can hold 63 files. And then the number of items would be the size of the file itself, which would fit with the bytes used. The bytes used is the total file size, whereas the types of files are the number, or the types of items are the numbers of files. And this goes back to really old school computers, like, it wasn't as noticeable in like Windows 95 days because that was FAT32 and you could have thousands of files before it became a problem. Thousands of files and thousands of folders before it became a problem. But older school, you could only have a certain number of files total. I think it's still a limitation on newer file systems like whatever Linux uses and the NTFS 5 that Windows Vista and 7 use, and Windows 8. I think there's still a limit to how many files can be stored on the drive, but it is in like numbers that I can't count. So the odds of anybody coming across it are slim to none. I don't think it's going to be a problem. But really old school systems would come up against the number of files being a problem. And that sounds kind of counterintuitive. Why would you be limited to the number of files? It just doesn't make sense. If you have all this storage space, but the files themselves only take up a fraction of that, why would you not be able to create another file? And that goes into a very in-depth thing about how the file allocation table, specifically I'm talking about like FAT16 and FAT12, that kind of stuff, really old school stuff. It's really complicated about how those worked, and I'm not going to go into it because I don't understand it myself. But that's how I'm picturing this. But yeah, so I wanted to show off how this works. This is our little interface, and we can see how many items I have. Oh, that's good to know. The Rocky Drone stack. Do the queens stack? Where are the queens? Ah, there's the queens. Okay, the princesses. They stack too. Good. I was wondering how it was going to handle the bees. That confused me a little bit. But I guess since those types of bees can stack, yeah, I'm not going to put the bees in this system. I shouldn't put the bees in this system for the exact reason of what I just described. With so many different types of bees that don't stack, all of these drives would be full almost instantaneously. It would be kind of ridiculous. So, yeah, basically you just use this. This is already in order of what you have most of to what you have least of, which is a Naga scale. I should have more of those. Maybe it hasn't gotten that far in the storage system. But, and you could just search for what you want. I had to search for glass earlier. Oh, hey, look, I have more glass. Awesome. I thought I used it all. And you can see that I still have 2 bays left in this drive bay. That's because I used like 12 some odd stacks of quartz crystals. And I made 4 drives. And that's it. So it was kind of ridiculous. Alright, I did want to show this, but it's not doing it anymore. But this hard drive here, this upper left-hand one, its light was actually orange. And that's what happens when the types is full, but not the bytes. The bytes is the end all. Once that is full, nothing else can go on that drive. As we can see with this drive here, we only have 54 of 63 types, but the bytes used are completely full. But the other way around is not true. Our types can be full, but still be gaining in bytes because we're just adding the same type. Yeah, I really hope I described that in a way that people can understand, because that kind of confused the hell out of me just saying it, and I'm the one that's saying it. Alright, but I think we did a pretty good episode. I'm pretty much at a point where I'm just going to be sitting here waiting for these things to finish, so I don't think there's much else I can do tonight. Next thing I'm going to be playing with, there's actually a way to remotely access the data on there and remotely access the items. And that's what I'm going to be playing with next, so stay tuned for that. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to see what happens when we put the books in there. Because I want to get rid of all of the barrels. And there's a considerable number in here. So I want to see what happens when we put the books in there and see if I can actually, see what's going on. Well, I guess I can see it right now, huh? Just out of simple testing purposes, we'll grab a looting 2 and a Vorpal 1. That should be enough for testing purposes to see what happens. So if we throw these two in here, and then I type in book. Alright, so we have 2 books in here. And if we hover over them, we can see them. I mean, it's not too terribly detailed, because they're both called enchanted books. I would assume they stack. Let's go check the Vorpals. I would assume they stack, since they stack in the barrels so easily. But they don't stack in my inventory, so that's always confusing. So, boop, boop. Book. Yes, they stack. Okay. Because that's something that I have to be concerned about. Since these hard drives only store a certain amount of types of items, ooh, I can show that off. If I get one more type of book, that will fill that hard drive. Well, max out the types that can be stored on that hard drive, and then we can see it. There we go. We saw it just turn orange, and we can see it flashing a different color of orange. That means that the number of types of items that can be stored on that drive is maxed, but the storage capacity itself is not maxed. That is shown with a red light, saying that it's completely full. Yeah, I saw that from a distance the first time, and I'm used to newer servers, well, I'm used to real-life servers, where if you see a red light on the hard drive, that means your hard drive died. And orange lights are imminent failure. Please replace. Yeah. But, yeah, so I hope that was useful to all y'all out there. All of you who don't want this kind of storage, and I can definitely understand why you wouldn't want this kind of storage. It is a little cumbersome to use, though that storage system does have its limitations as well. But I don't have to be going over there to grab stone and then over there to grab wool. I could just do it right in front of the machine. Or anywhere, but that is for the next episode. So, I will wrap up the episode here. And I will say to you guys, as always, keep playing the game and have fun.